Hi, Tunde, can you share your screen? Let me just.
I can't see your screen now.
No, I mean you should share your own screen. We are live already.
Yeah, I'm actually sharing it now. It should be coming up.
All right, all right. Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, anywhere you are watching from, and welcome back to this episode of our data analytics series. I remain Afis Babatunde. I keep on hosting you every week for this series, and here with me I have Tunde Morakinyo, which also taking us through data analytics journey. So how we get started with our analytics journey, and then how we can become a pro. So how we can become a pro in whatever we are learning here. So just stick to this series, and if you have any question, don't forget to drop comment. Don't forget to maybe join the WhatsApp group or Telegram group. At any time you can always reach out to us and ask your question. So without wasting much of our time, I will hand over to Tunde to take over this class. Let me transit my screen, and then everybody should be able to see what we are doing. Okay, Tunde, can you share your screen again?
Yeah, it should be coming up now.
Okay, I think we are good.
All right. I think it's up, right?
Yes, yes, it's up.
Okay.
Yes, but I can only see myself on your screen. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, of course. I see.
Okay.
I'm going to pop. I'm going to just bring up the
Okay. Oh,
Excel now. All right.
perfect, perfect. I think we are good now. We are good.
Okay, that's cool. That's good. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Can we just confirm if you can see my screen properly?
Yes, it's very
Uh,
clean. Very clean. I can see it.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. So I might as well actually, just zoom in so people can see properly as well.
All right.
Okay. So can we go ahead now?
Yeah, sure, sure. So I think let me just do a recap of what we did last week.
Yeah,
If
sure.
you are not here
Fantastic.
last week, we were able to start analytics with Microsoft Excel. How can you get started with maybe getting your data into Microsoft Excel? We said Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet whereby you can use it to manage your data. You can organize your data with Microsoft Excel, just like a database. So when how do you input your data? Which format, which type of data type do you have, and how you can work with different kind of data within Microsoft Excel. And also we're able to look into a different way to manipulate text, and maybe sometimes you want your text to be in lowercase, uppercase. You want to input data into Excel. By default we say number aligned to the right, while text aligned to the left in Microsoft Excel. So that's by default unless you change the alignment. So that's all what we discussed last week. Just keep following us and know how to work with all these simple tricks in Microsoft Excel, because it really help a lot. That's when you get to a big data, it help you to know how to modify and how to manipulate all this kind of. So let's continue with string manipulation. I think that's where we had last week. So, and we are still moving. So thank you, Tunde. I'm very sure when people get to the extent that they can't understand what we are doing, they should be able to at least ask questions. So yeah, we can move forward.
Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. So thank you very much, Afiz. So thank you for having me again. So last week where we stopped was one of the textual functions, which is trim. So we were able to trim all the text that we have in all our cells. All right, and we compared, before trimming and after trimming as well. So we're going to be going ahead straight to uh, one of the most common textual functions, which is concatenate, right? And concatenate actually simply means you joining, several texts together. And as we have it on my screen, right, the definition is just okay. Concatenate is a function that combines more than one text together, and the syntax is as we have, just beneath it. So I'm going to be showing us two ways in which you can actually achieve your concatenation. The first one is with function, while the second one is going to be with uh, logical stuffs like, ampersand and pipes and all of those things that we have. So without wasting much of our time, we are going to be going straight to the example and look at the most common scenarios that we have uh, in data analysis today. So if you look at my example page, right, you see that we have a column that populates the first name, and we have another column that populates the second name. So there are times in which we want to carry out analysis that only not shows the first name or the last name, but shows the two names together in a cell. So this is where concatenation comes in. So we can make use of the concatenation function. I mean the concatenate function. I beg your pardon, to combine these two uh, text or information together. So we're going to be looking straight to at the example one with the function. All right. And like I said last week, if you want to write a function in Microsoft Excel, you definitely have to start with an equality sign. I'm sure we still remember that, right?
Yeah.
So if I hit equality sign and I start typing CO, IntelliSense is going to bring options for me. So as soon as I type N, you can see we have concat popping up there, right? So you
Yeah.
can go ahead and say concatenate. So we have two functions concatenate. If you look at the first one, is carrying like f of x, which shows that is a function. The second one as well is a function, but that is fizzling out. With time, Microsoft is going to take that out entirely, all right? Because it's old-fashioned kind of. So it still works definitely, but concat has come to stay and has come to replace, the concatenate function. So
Okay.
where you hit on tab or you double click on that, you can see that we have several arguments in there from text one, comma. If you start hitting comma, you see we have text two, text three, text four. So depending on the number of text you want to, combine. But in this case, we only want to combine two texts, right? Which is the first name and the last name. So what do? We reference the first text, right? Which is going to come from, the first name. So we just click on that. That is referenced. Like I always do, I like to put a space, that's how I do my thing, but it doesn't actually matter. It's
Okay.
just for readability. It's for readability's sake. When you have like when you are writing complex, functions, for you to be able to read it, easily, you just have to like put some space. It is not necessary actually. So it's just that's just for me. So when you hit comma, it takes you to the uh second argument, which is text. I want you to take note of something. The first argument does not have any square bracket wrapped around it. If you notice that properly,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't have square bracket wrapped around it. But the second one and the subsequent one, they all have square brackets wrapped around them. What does this square bracket mean? What does it mean? It means that any argument that actually has square brackets wrapped around there shows that uh, they are optional, right? You don't have to call those arguments. You don't have to enter those arguments. You might enter them and you might not. They are just optional. That is what it means. They are not important. But in this case, they are actually important because we want to combine the first name and the last name, right? So we've referenced the first information that we want to combine with the second. So now we are going to reference the second. Now the first one is in J5, while the second is in K5. So when you close your bracket and hit enter, it's going to combine these two. All right. But something is missing out, which we are going to get back at. When you hit enter to this guy, you see that it has now combined both the first name and the last name. We now have Tunde Morakinyo. But this is not properly formatted, right? Because under normal circumstance, there should be a space between Tunde and Morakinyo, which is what we are going to be fixing right now, right? Now, when you go back to your formula, just put a double quote there, right, with a space there. Then now do a comma again. So the third argument is now going to be, the last name. So now we are having three arguments. The first name, which is Tunde, then a space, which is a double quote, right? Then Morakinyo, which is the last name. So when you just close your parentheses and you click enter, you see now that it has been formatted properly. So what do we do? Don't forget, we come to the bottom right at the edge, and we just drag it down or double click to fill the rest of the cell. So now we can carry out our analysis based on the full name. We can carry out our analysis based on the last name alone. We can carry out our analysis based on first name. I'm sure
Wow.
we get that. So it is as simple as that, right? So very quickly, we are going to be looking at the second example with the use of operators, right? I said earlier that you can either use functions or you use
You can use
operators,
operator
right?
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to be using operators to perform the same exercise we just performed right now. So now, what we are going to do, either you are using a function or you are using operators, you still need to start with an equality sign. So you are still trying to come up with a solution. So what we're going to do here is just to start like we used to do, just hit equality sign. Then we reference what we want to combine or what we want to concatenate. In this sense, we come to the first name, you reference that, right? So instead of, we are not using function again, we are using operator. So the operator for concatenation is the ampersand sign. So they call it ampersand. Is the and sign in Microsoft Excel or in programming generally, in some programming languages, right? So now we have our J5. So instead of using the function, we decided to use the operators now. So we hit the ampersand sign, which means and, which means we want to combine it. Then we reference what? We reference the last name, which means we want to combine the J5, which is the first name, and K5, which is the last name together. So the same thing is going to happen. There's not going to be a space between them. When you hit enter, you now see that we have Tunde Muraki. You're not properly formatted. We need to ensure that we have a space between them. So we do the same thing. We come here. Let me just take this guy off. We say, okay, J5, and then our double quotes, right? Then we say and again, then we can now reference our last name, which
Last
is the
name. Yeah.
K5. So when you hit enter here, you now see that it is now properly formatted, just like we have with the function. So when you double click on this guy, it fills the rest of the cell and we are all happy. So I'm sure we get this. This is how you can actually manipulate, using concatenate function or using ampersand as an operator to perform your concatenation.
Wow. That's awesome. So I think you guys can get how to concatenate two tests now. Like it's either you use formula or concat, because some of us, if you are using maybe outdated version of Microsoft Excel, maybe like 2007, 2010, you can still get concatenate there. But if you are using updated version, you should be able to see concat alone. So concat, or you can see it like concatenate with a flag, yellow flag. So, or either you can use the operator called ampersand. So on your keyboard you can use it to join whatever you want to join together. So this always come in, like for instance now you want to generate email, you want to generate full name and so on like that. Most of cases you want to generate unique ID, so you can use all this concatenate. I think we are good with this. If you don't have any question, let's proceed.
Okay, all right. So very quickly, we are going to be moving into statistical functions, and this is also very, very important, right? And what we are going to be talking about majorly are the aggregators, the aggregation functions, as some people call them, right? And there are some times in which you want to aggregate some figures. You have like a range of figures, an array of figures, that you want to just sum them up into a single value. That is where aggregate functions actually come in, right? And we are going to be looking at a few of them, at least the most important ones. All right. So, Afiz, I think I'm hearing something from the background. I don't know if it's from your hand or mine.
Nope.
Okay, I think it's gone. Yeah.
Okay.
So, apologies for that disruption. So, like I said, we're going to be looking at a few of them, starting from the sum, down to average, then to mean, then to max, and to count. And we are going to be having a few examples as well. So, when do we need to perform aggregations? I think I just explained this earlier that, okay, when you want to like sum up, for instance, some arrays of number. Let's say you have like five, different numbers, and you want to add all of them together. So you want to perform aggregations on them. That's what it means. Okay. Now, and you might want to do an average on the same array of number as well. You might want to find, the minimum number out of, the numbers you have within the range, and you might want to find the maximum number from it as well, and you as well want to count it. So these are the things that you can do when you have numbers. So let's take this example, for instance, now that, okay, we have, the students right here, and we also have their scores. Let's say for instance they're having three tests, right? So we want to judge them based on the three tests, like we do in secondary, primary school, or even in the university, that we have, first term test and second term test, or first semester test and second semester test, and all of that. So if they want to come up with an aggregation, they will have to like average the two to see the performance of each of the students, most times. And you can do a max if maybe majority of the students are not doing very well. So these are use cases, right, that I'm mentioning. So if you look at each student, we have, score one, score two, and score three. So for these three scores, we might want to sum them up to come up with something. We might want to average them. We might want to find the minimum, we might want to find the maximum, and all of that. So the first thing we are going to be doing is to do a sum. Okay, we want to sum these three scores so that we can know the total. If for instance now, okay, the total should be over 100. So we now want to base the aggregations over 100 and see how each of the students are actually performing. So what are we expected to do? We're expected to sum it. And one thing about Microsoft Excel is, even if you highlight you know, all of these numbers, even at the bottom right here, you can see that it has performed some kind of automatic aggregations for you, right? So it has summed it, it's given us 75, it has counted the number of rows or cells, and it has also averaged it. So this is how you can quickly explore your data actually even before you start coming up with some kind of calculations and all of that on them. So without wasting much of our time, the first one we're going to be taking from the syntax is the sum. So we want to sum for every student their total score over 100, right?
Hi, Tunde,
So what
can
do we
you
do?
help us to zoom in your screen?
Okay, okay, that's fine.
Okay, I think that is this fine.
How about now?
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay. Okay, okay, all right. So like I was saying, so we want to sum up these guys into total score, all right? What do? We start with our equality sign, don't forget. And what do we call on? We call on the sum function because we want to sum them up. We want to add them up, right? And we want to add for Marcos, for Steven, down to Mubarak, right? So what do? We need to highlight or reference the three cells in which we want to add. So which is cell 1, yeah, which is score 1, then score 2, then score 3. So you can see as we reference that, we started from K5, then to L5, then to M5. So what the column between them is telling us is that, okay, it's a range. So we are starting from somewhere and we are adding it somewhere. It must have passed through some other cells as well. But it's telling us that it is from K5 down to M5. All right. But don't forget, we've not done something. We've not called on the sum function. Don't make that mistake. It's not
Yeah,
going to sum it
yeah.
up for us automatically. So that's my mistake actually now. So yeah, you can just hit on sum, right, to add all of them. So we can now highlight the three cells that we want to sum up. Uh Now I don't know why this has covered it. Let me take it off. Okay. So you can now close your parentheses. When you close your parentheses and you hit enter, you see what it has done. It has summed up these three guys, and the addition of these three gives us 75. All right. So what do? We can, drag this guy down, and it does the same for the rest of the
Rest of
cells.
this file.
I'm
That's
sure, I'm sure,
awesome.
I'm sure, I'm
Yeah,
sure we're getting it
yeah,
now.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
So that is how you can sum, right? There's actually another way in which you can perform aggregations. I think I'm going to show us that by the time we start, looking for mean, max, and all of that. So I'm going to show us the second way in which you can do that. So now the second one we want to do is very similar to the first one, but we just want to change syntax here is to check the average score. We want to check the average score of each student here. So what does average mean? Average means you adding number of cells together or a certain range of numbers together divided by the number of times the number of occurrence. Yeah, let me just put it that way. For instance, you want to average these three. What you do is you add 1, 2, and 3 together, and you divide it by what? And you divide it by 3. Okay?
So that's if you are
Yeah.
doing normal calculation, right? Yeah.
That's when if you are doing normal calculation. Let me just bring it somewhere on the cell here. That okay, I want to average 1 plus 2 plus 3. Right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 gives us 6.
Yeah.
So if I average that, the average is 2, right? Because 1 plus 2 plus 3 divided by 3 gives us 2. So
Yes.
if I want to start doing that, I want to say, okay, 1 plus 2 plus 3. So, right, what does
Yeah.
this guy do? When you hit
So
enter, it gives us 6, right? Then we now want to average this guy. What do? We can come back here and say, okay, we want to wrap this guy into a bracket, for instance. Then we want to do a division by 3, right? So
yeah.
this is just the basic mathematics. So if you hit enter, sorry, it's going to give us 2, right? Because 1 plus 2 plus 3 give us what? Gives us 6. Then dividing that by 3 is going to give us 2. Okay, so that is exactly what we are. The function is going to be returning here. So we are going to be calling on the function, say average, right? Then we are going to highlight or reference, as we referenced earlier. Uh, then we are going to close our parentheses. Then we hit enter. You see now that it has averaged it. So it summed the three up and it divided it by 3. So that is what we are having 25 here. So what do? We just drag it down and it averages, everything that we have in there. So that is how it works. It's just as simple as that, right?
Okay.
So now let me just quickly take the other parts
Okay.
before you just come in. So that so now minimum score. Maybe out of this array that we have here, we want to array of numbers, right? So we can just call on mean immediately. We can say, okay, equals mean. We have a function called mean as well. Then we want to highlight every of the score. Then you close parentheses. Then you hit enter. So it's going to investigate every numbers that we have in there and just return the minimum out of there. So if you also scan through all of these numbers, you see that the minimum we have there is 10, which is, in cell L what L9 right there. So that is why it has returned, 10 for us. The same thing with what? With max. What changes here is just the syntax from min to max. So if you call on max, then you just, highlight all of these numbers, then you close parentheses, you hit enter, it returns the maximum number inside of that array. And if you scan through yourself as well, you see that the highest number that is in there is 10. So the total number in this case now is that we want to sum up all of these numbers together. So what do? Like we did for total score here, we can call on sum, of course, and say we want to add up all the numbers that we have, all these scores. All right. Then we close parentheses and you hit enter. So it sums up everything into 455. So another critical one is we want to count the number of students, right? So we have a student column right here. You can see from Marcus to Stephen to Thomas and to Mubarak. So we want to count them. On the normal circumstance, if you highlight all of the student here, so Excel aggregates everything to you underneath here. You can see count, which is 6. So if we call on the count function or count a function, as the case may be, because we're going to be dealing with text, right? So it must return 6. Right. So for instance, now if I come here and say, okay, equal sign, I want to call on count function. Right. If you look at the description of count function, say count the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. Okay. Underline that contain numbers. What we want to, reference now is not number. They are not numbers. They are just text. So if I hit this guy and highlight all these text and close parentheses at hit enter, it's going to return 0 because it cannot recognize the data type of everything we have here as what? As numbers. So only if we just highlight, the ones with number, let's say for instance, we highlight the score 1 and we want to count it, and you just close parentheses and you hit enter, you see it has returned 6. But we want to make use of the student. We don't want to make use of the number. It doesn't make sense making use of the number, right? So we can come right here and change the count to count A. There's another function called count A. You can see count A takes care of that. And you see it counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty, right? As long as they are not empty, it's going to work. So if you hit on this guy and just highlight the names in the student column and you close your parentheses, you hit enter, it returns 6 automatically. So that is how you can perform, simple aggregations. Maybe later we are going to be talking about how we can actually perform complex aggregations, like some aggregations with conditions when it comes to using the sum ifs, count ifs, and all of those guys. So now I said I was going to show you the second way in which you can perform your aggregation without, having to type yourself. Now, the second cell underneath is what we are going to make use of, right? The first one we have to write the formula ourselves by calling on the functions. But this guy, this second one, we are going to make use of the tabs, right? If you look at the tabs, you see we are on home tab. So if you go straight to formula tabs, right? And under the function library pane, you can see that we have, the first option is insert function. So the second one is, summations and all of that, right? The third one is, the most recently used functions, right? And we have financial functions as well. We have logical functions. We have text functions, datetime, lookup, math and trig, and we have more other functions as well, from statistical to engineering, then down to web. So what do we want to do? We want to perform aggregation. So we can come to AutoSum here. So when you drop down on AutoSum, you see the most common one are just the ones I listed earlier, right? Sum, average, count numbers, max, and mean. But this case, I think we want to find the minimum number, right? So when you click on minimum number, what does it do? It automatically populates the mean function inside of the cell you selected. Okay? Now, it's now left to you to just get the array of numbers that you want to find the minimum from, right? So, what do? We just come straight to the data, then we highlight, all of the numbers that we want to return the minimum from. So easy peasy, right? So you just hit enter and you are good. It returns the same thing. You don't have to hit equality sign yourself. You just go and make use or leverage the formula tab and the auto sum functionality within the tab. So we can do the same thing for max score. You just click on the cell you want to return the results, then you come to auto sum, you click on max, then you just highlight the range in which you want to return the max from, then you hit enter. So the same thing is applicable to total sum. Click on the cell, come to auto sum, click on sum. If you want to add all of the scores for every student, you highlight, then you hit enter. Same thing is applicable to count as well, right? So you come here, you it counts. This is count number, so it's not going to be counting A. Unfortunately, there is no count A there. So when you highlight, the text, it's going to return 0. So let's just leverage the number in this case. So when you hit enter, it also returned 6. So these are actually the ways in which you can perform your aggregations.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, I just noticed something in some
Do we get
cases.
that? So, Afiz, I don't know if you want to come in here, just to buttress on some things before we continue.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello? Hi, Tunde.
Afiz, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me right now?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, okay. So, my own, I observed something
Yes,
like
I can
when
hear
you
you
are
now,
trying
of
to
course,
type the
loud and clear.
formula,
I can hear you loud and clear.
when you are trying to type the formula,
Hello, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I think I'm lagging. Let me join again. Wow.
I don't know.
Hi, Tunde. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sure, loud and clear.
I think that was network. So, can you reshare your screen? Sorry.
Oh,
Okay, perfect. It's back.
apologies.
Yeah,
Let
it's
me
back. It's
just
back.
stop sharing, then reshare.
Yeah. While trying
Yeah, I've
to.
actually just stopped sharing, so
Okay,
I've
you can come
reshared the
up.
screen now.
So, while trying to
It should be
uh,
coming up.
type
It should be
some
coming up.
formula and so on like that, there's I can see some formula. They are giving like comma while selecting a cell. Do you get that? Hello.
I didn't quite get that. I think your network is bad,
Okay,
kind of.
I mean, while trying to type your formula, there are
Can
some.
you rephrase that?
Yes, yes. While trying to type your formula, when you type equal sign, like when you click on average, so I can see like maybe test one comma, test two comma, like and so on like that. Like
Wow.
while passing the parameter, but I mean, is there a difference between having maybe colon in between of a range of cell, like maybe when you say K3 or K4 to M4, that's two. Why? But why selecting? You have to select like K4, L4, and M4. I don't know. Maybe you get that.
I didn't quite get that, but if I try to picture what you're trying to say, I think you were referring to something like, I want to reference from a particular cell to a particular cell, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
On the row area. Yeah, what is, because I actually explained this when I was referencing, because someone will say, okay, I think this is showing K5, then column M5. So where is L5? So
Exactly.
what this simply means is that, okay, it's saying that from K5 down to what? Down to M5. And it must have passed through some other cells as well, right? But if you want to pick them one after the other, for instance, that, okay, you want to pick them one after the other, you can say, okay, click on this, then click on this, which is comma, then click on this. So are you getting the point? So
Exactly. Exactly.
it's still the same thing with, okay, from K5 down to M5, and clicking K5, L5, and M5. So it's still actually the same thing. So what differentiates them is just that column. The column is saying from to,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, yeah. So I think does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, because some people always confuse about that. Like maybe, for me now, if you pick like I'm from K4 to M4, in between, now insert another column. You understand? Maybe for instance, now you insert another column in between, maybe M and L. You get that? So when you do that,
Okay.
it kind of take that part like as and it will have effect on the
It
final
will have
result.
effect. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So whatever subsequent columns you add in between is going to actually, uh, factor factor them into whatever calculations you are doing.
Okay, now. Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, all right. So yeah, thank you. So I think we're done with that. Let's just quickly look at. I think we still have like 18 more minutes. This should be enough to finish the date functions, and if we can't, I think we might just have to finish it up, next week. So we are going to be looking at date and time function. This is also a very important aspect of how their business is trending. And for you to know how your business is trending, it has to do with time. It has to do with date. right? You want to be able to compare your current revenue to the past revenue, maybe last month, to see your growth, or maybe last year, to also see how far you've come, to see how you've grown as a company. You understand? So date is very, very important, right, in analysis. So we are going to be looking at a few of them. I think we already discussed the first three during the introduction, but we're still going to very quickly look at it, right? The first one is the today function. So today function, what today function does for you basically is just to return today's date as you have it on your machine, as you have it on your PC. So if you hit equality sign and hit today, apologies, I hit today, for instance, what does it return? It returns the current date formatted as a date, right? So it doesn't actually require any argument. What it does when you close your parentheses, a set on your PC, and it's going to return the date based on this. So if you close this and reopen it tomorrow, you are no longer going to find 18. So you are going to find 19 on your PC. So that is how today function works. And you can still, want to see yesterday's date. What do we do? It's just the way you are thinking, right? You can see yesterday's date. All right. So if you if you put -1 here and you hit enter, definitely it's going to give you yesterday's date. So we can have, what we do is the date of the next 5 days. You want to know the date of the next 5 days. What do? You just add 5 to that, to the current date, and tells you that okay, the date of the next 5 days is 23rd. So this is how date actually works, and this is how we can actually leverage today rather as a function. This is how we can leverage it even as that. So having said that, I'm going to quickly look at time. Time is also similar. I mean, now is also similar to date, but what differentiates today and now is just that now adds the time to it. Okay, so you can see today is only returning date, but now it's going to return both dates and time. So if you come here and say, okay, now very quickly, and you just close your parentheses and you hit enter, it's going to give you, like I said, like I explained, if you start having hashtags in all the cell, it tells you that okay, the information that we have in that cell is actually wider than the width of the cell itself. So how do you solve this? Is either you double click on the edge or you just drag it just to give more space. You can see now that okay, this guy has returned both date and time. And for this, one or you say maybe 2023, all right, you now say 118. So this is date. Okay, so you can make use of the date function to actually quickly come up with this. How do you do that? You just come and say date. Okay, and you can see in the argument it has three arguments that actually make up a date, which is the year, the month, and the day. So it's telling you to provide all of these three arguments to be able to come up with the date. So the year is 2023, all right, and the month is January, which is 01, and the day is 18, which is 18. So when you close your parentheses and you hit enter, it gives you the same thing as you would have typed, not making use of the function. So that is that for that. So we are going to be going into the next one, which is year. There are some times that in our data set we have several dates columns, and we've been asked to carry out analysis that actually breaks the metrics down by year, or breaks the metrics down by months, or whatever